Hello, guys. Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Web Dev Bootcamp powered by CSEA Computer Science and Engineering Association. So, today we will be learning about JavaScript, day two. Yesterday was day one where we went through the basics of HTML and CSS. In case if you guys did not attend yesterday's lecture, I mean, not lecture, I would say it's not a class, it's an event for you guys. So don't make it boring. And I'm not a professor. If you have any doubts, you can feel free to ask in the comment section and it will get cleared. So, yeah, if you did not attend yesterday's event of day one HTML and CSS, recordings and resources have been provided in the WhatsApp group. You may feel free to go through it and yeah, tighten your seatbelt. Today we will be learning JavaScript and also what JavaScript in action in the web pages. We will be starting soon in 2 minutes. We will be waiting for a few more to join. All right, so guys, we'll be starting now. So today will be starting with JavaScript Basics, where we'll firstly learn variables, the hello world program, arrays, object, classes, conditions, functions, loops. I mean, pretty much the basics first we will learn. And then we will incorporate this JavaScript into the HTML, where you will see from your naked eyes that, oh, in the web page, the JavaScript is being played. Okay, so the first question comes to our mind is, why do we need JavaScript? Why do we need JavaScript? And the answer is like JavaScript is a programming language initially designed to interact with elements of web pages. It is the programming language of the web. So during the initial days when the web pages were being made, we needed a language to make the web pages responsive, to have fun with the website. So JavaScript was a language basically designed solely for the purpose of that. To give an analogy, I will say consider a web page as a living human being. A living human being will have two components. It will have a body and it will have a soul. So yesterday we learned the HTML and CSS, which I will relate it to the body of a living human being. But the thing which makes a human body living is the soul. And that is what I relate JavaScript as. Like the JavaScript is what gives a soul to the web page. You do whatever in the web page, like do this, click a button, you will get a response. You will ask the website to do this, to do that, to send a mail, to play a video, anything that will be handled by the JavaScript. So that is why we need JavaScript. And the second point says that it is the programming language of the world is truly correct. Whenever there is a term development comes, so JavaScript should be present. Even like when there is transfer of data from a website, from the backend, from the server, mostly the data will be transferred in JavaScript object format, that is the JSON. If you have ever heard, like you might have heard the word JSON, that is the JavaScript object notation only. So yeah, that's why it's called the programming language of the web or the development. So I will just share my entire screen for the coding part. Is my screen visible? The entire screen? Okay, thank you. So let's get started with the basics of JavaScript. So we'll be starting with, before variables, let's start with the hello world program. So like in C++, we will be using cout, or in Python, we will be using print line or print. In the same way in the JavaScript, here we use a notion of hello world. So yeah, like if I do console.log hello world, it is the hello world program. So it prints hello world. If I also console.log CSEA Web Dev Bootcamp, so it will print that also. So yes, this is the hello world program of JavaScript. As a warm welcome for all of you to step into the JavaScript world. So now we will learn about the JavaScript variables. What are variables? So variables are containers to store data. We will use the keyword var and let to store variables. Okay, here's a note, and I will explain it to you. Don't get like, if you are getting confused, like, okay, what is var, what is let, don't worry, everything will be cleared in a minute. So here's a note, like, stay away from using let. We all preferably recommend you to use var, like example var x is equal to 5 or var str is equal to anaconda. So JavaScript variables can hold many data types, numbers, strings, objects, and much more. So if you have, like, I think most of you will have a C++ background from now, and you guys will be relieved to know that when you are declaring a variable in JavaScript, you don't actually need to specify the data type. Like in C++, if I want to hold a, 5, we have to specify to the C++ compiler that int x is equal to 5. But in JavaScript here that's not the case. We will just say that var x is equal to 5. We don't have to mention the data type. That's why we call JavaScript as the loosely type, that we don't have to specify the data type of the x. So here we will just type var x is equal to 5, and let me comment out this one. And if I print this, it will print 5. And I have used an here arrow just for your clarification, and type of x, which is a number. So here it is 5 is a number, and we did not have to specify the JavaScript compiler that it is a number. It automatically understood that it is a number, and we can also change the content of x to a string also. It's not like in C++ how we said that, okay, if this is holding an integer, it will hold integer only. It is not the case in JavaScript. I'm now switching from a number to hold a string. To string, here we go, and if I save this and I run it, yeah, if I save this and I run it, so as you see here, first it printed 5, which is a number, and then I changed the content of the x to a string. To string, here we go, and then I printed the x and the type of x. Here it is. At first it printed 5 number, and then the to string, here we go, which is a type of a string. So this is how we declare a variable in JavaScript. So here is a question for you guys. Which of the following keywords is used to define a variable in JavaScript? You can take a minute and answer it in the chat box. Okay, so almost all of you have answered correctly. The answer is C, both A and B. Just now I've like demonstrated that we can declare it with var and let as well. So moving ahead, now we have JavaScript constants. So like we used var, we can use constant also, but not in the same way. Constant will have a value fixed to it. You can't give any other value to a constant. Like example, now const x is equal to 5. We can't give x is equal to 6. Let me demonstrate to you guys. So now, like, I have const x is equal to 5. No, you don't need to specify the data type. It's just the same program as of previous. Just instead of var, I have used a constant here. And let me save this and let me run it. So yeah, so it prints the same thing, that it is x as 5 and the type of x is a number. But if I try to change the content of x to a string here, because it is a constant, it will definitely throw an error. Run it. See here we have an error, and the type of error says that assignment to a constant variable. That means we can't change the content of the x, not only of like tried changing it to a string, even if you try to change it to like if even if you try to increment the value, let's suppose x is equal to x plus 1, then also it will give the same error that you can't do that assignment to a constant variable. When you fix a constant x is equal to 5, that's it, it's going to remain the same throughout the program, and it is not going to change. So now we have conditions. But before that, like I have said that I will demonstrate you the difference between the let and var. So here's the program for that. Let me explain it to you. So now we have here used a var dog is equal to the sound of the dog which makes, and let cat is equal to the sound of the cat which cat makes. Now we will be console logging, printing both the dog and the cat sound. And then here is a local scoped. Here is a locally scoped variables have been assigned to it inside the scope. And then here we will be having a var cow where it will have the sound of the which cows make, and let snake which contains the snake sound. So we will be now console logging this one. Let me print this. Now we have the sound of the dog and the cat, and the sound of the cow and the snake here. Now you'll be thinking, okay, what's the difference here? Okay, nice question. But the thing is, if I do console.log of here it is locally scoped, and cow it is in this scope, but I am now using the cow, sound of the cow outside the scope. Will this work? Mostly in C++, you might be thinking it won't work, it gets destroyed after the scope gets over. But it is not in the case with using var in JavaScript. If I print this, it will get printed. Cow, because it is var, we were be able to use it outside the local scope. So that's why if we printed this cow here, it got printed move like correctly. Now if I try to console log the snake sound, which was let, and that was also inside the local scope, try to print that, I will get an error because we are using it outside of the scope. So that is like the difference between let and var. Var is a globally scope. We can use it anywhere in like the program. But when you are using let, it is only locally scope. We can't use it outside this scope. It is good if you want any variable to be in a scope only, and after the scope, the variable should get deleted so the memory gets free for in a memory complex area where like memory is very important to you. People will suggest you to use let. So yeah, let's go to the conditions. Even the JavaScript will have the conditions of if, else, and I am assuming that from C++ background, you might be having knowledge of what is if, what if, else, what is else if. And even in JavaScript, it's the same. Like if, here I have an example here. So if 33 plus 77 is equal to, let's take for example, it's 100. So if this is true, then this statement will get executed. And if it is false, then obviously this statement will get executed. And if I run this, I will get this statement that we should probably stop bunking math classes because 33 plus 77 is not equal to 100. So if I correct it to the 110, which is the actual result of the answer, so now we got this statement got executed because this was true. That is okay, you are good at mathematics. But the thing here is people might get confused between, like, there is also an operator called triple equal to. If we do this, apply this and run it, also the same result we will get. So you might get confused, like what is the difference between a triple equal to and a double equal to sign. So a triple equal to will always check the data type and the content. Now, and it is a strict operator, and a double equal to will only matches the content. So now if I try to run 33 plus 77 is equal to a string of 110. So you might guys like think, okay, it has to be false because it is a number here and it is a string here. Like there's a clear mismatch of the data type, even though the content is same. But in JavaScript, if there's a double equal to sign, it won't care about the the data type. It is not that strict. And if I run this, Even then, the first statement got executed because the content matched. 33 plus 7 is equal to 110, and this the content of this is also 110. So it says, okay, beautiful, the content matched. But if I use a triple equal to sign, it is a very strict operator. Here it is a number, and here it is a string. So it will compare number and string. So it will say the number is not equal to string. The data type clearly mismatched. So it will turn out to be false, even though the content is same. That is the 110, and this answer of this is 110. It won't get matched, and the second function will get executed. So yes, the triple equal to is a strict operator, and a double equal to it just matches the content. So a question time to you guys: which operator here is used for comparing content and the data type? I'm assuming everyone would have answered correctly, as I explained right now. Beautiful. You have all answered correctly. And yes, the answer is C. The operator which is used to compare the content and the data type is a triple equal to sign. Beautiful. So now we will be learning about the arrays in JavaScript, just like an array you use in C++, but not the same syntax and not the same way. I mean, I will just explain the difference now, like how it is different from a. So here is an array in JavaScript. See the syntax: const daily routine is equal to, like, we have wake up, eat, code, and sleep, like a day in a engineer's life. So this is how I declared an array, and this is an array of string. So if I now try to console.log, that is print the array daily routine, I will get the array here as a result, that this is the array. So this is how, like, array is there. Like, but in JavaScript there are many methods you can apply on the daily routine. Like, suppose this is also zero based indexing, like in C++. If I try to console.log, like the zero, the wake up will be printed. If I try to print the first one, it will print eat. So yeah, it is zero based. This will be zero, this will be one, and so on. Now if I want to, like, find an index of anything, so there's an operation called index of. And if I try to find, like, I want to find the index of eat, and if I try to console log the index of eat, I will get the answer as 1, because eat is at first index. And if I try to, like, add and insert an element into the array, so I'll just say push, and then I will just type repeat, and what repeating it up this node log console.log. I'll first print it, and then I will console.log daily routine. This push will add this element into the array, and if I push it, we have wake up, eat, code, sleep, and then repeat. Clear this. And if I do a pop, there's also a function called pop, which will just remove the last element from the array. These are, like, pretty basic functions, push and pop, which you will be learning in the second semester if you are a computer science student in the data structure and algorithm. So if I run this, we have, see, the last sleep got removed from the array, like very relatable, like we don't have sleep in our lives. And if I try to use a shift here, it will remove the first element from the wake up part, it get removed. It's just code, sleep, and repeat. And now if I try to, if I want to remove anything called, like, there's a function called splice here. So this splice function will remove, like, we have to provide two parameters to it. First will index and how many times it should get removed. So, like, now I want to remove the eat thing. So, like, I will first find the index of eat, like daily routine dot splice. First parameter will be index. So I will pass the index of eat, and that is one will be passed to it. And then how many times it should be removed. I want only one time the eat should be removed. So if I apply this operation of splice in that, so it will get removed, and we have only wake up, code, and sleep. So yeah, this was like the array of, similarly, it was an array of string, but we can have array of having multiple data types in it. So, like, here's a pocket in Grand Theft Auto game. So, like, guys might have played it. Like, we have, like, machine gun in that. We have, like, chainsaw, our health, our money, and we can also hold a function in the array, there's a function in San Andreas called Hezoyam, which will just set your health to 100%, and it will have like $10,000 to your pocket. So if I console.log before applying the function, so it prints that we have machine gun, chainsaw, like our health, our money, and the function Hezoyam. So if I apply, if I like, I can access the function in that. Here's the function Hezoyam. What it will do is pocket in GTA 2. That is the second one. This is 0, 1, 2. It will just set it to 100, and the third one it will add $10,000 to it. So if I apply that method, I'm here calling that method of Hezoyam. So it is I printed okay on applying Hezoyam, and then I will print out the array again. So if I run that, firstly we will get 40 and $80,000 on applying Hezoyam. It will the health gets increased to 100, and we will also have $10,000 extra in our pocket. So that is it. Here it can hold like multiple data types, like a string, a number, and a function. So, like a quick question: if there's an array called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we want what will be the value if we print console.log array.index of 0? Okay, so guys, okay, that was a very tricky question. I mean, yep, I did not, I think, say that if like suppose we have an index of 0, and that means we are saying the function that we want to find 0 in this array, but 0 is not there. So it will not give null or error. I mean, it will just give -1. -1, that means the correct answer here is B. -1 means that it is not in the array itself. So it won't, find, like, it will just give -1. Yeah. And also, guys, like, have I told, like, if you want to, like, wait a minute, let me open the Google Chrome. And like, if you guys want to know this thing, that you can also perform your JavaScript operation on the console of the web, any browser will have a inbuilt JavaScript runner. So if I like, click inspect, and if I go to the console, and if I type it, like, I will type the same question, let r is equal to, wait a minute, that I will try to run console.log hello world. Wait, printed hello world. Now let's just r is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, it now we gave the console that okay, we have made an array, so we like can console.log the r runs the console.log r dot index of 0. So yeah, it gave -1 because 0 was not in the. So yeah, here is like I did not say this, but you can run JavaScript on your console of the what do you say, the browser as well, because they have an inbuilt JavaScript runner. Yeah. Okay. So off to the next slide. So now we will be learning objects. I assume like objects would not have been, like, you guys may not be familiar with the objects because not in C++ they would have taught it. So yeah, like object is just like it's like a bag which holds multiple values. Like, here's an object of car. It will have brand, it will have price, it will have top speed, and it itself has an object of like speed of gear 1, gear 2, and all that. So if I try to console.log the, here I made a object of car 1 which will have brand, price, and then see the syntax. It's not equal to, it's a colon, and it's a key value pair. Here a key is brand, and the value it holds is BMW. So if I just remove the comment and if I run this, we have BMW, and okay, wait, let me clear this. Run it again. So we have BMW and 65,000 because this says that car.brand is BMW and car.price is 65,000. You can also add an object and add an attribute to this, like say car.1 insurance is not there, it's false. Try to run it. it will first print the brand price and then a false. That means we added an attribute to the object. So that's how it is. But the thing is, we can't just keep making like want to make a car of Tesla. So I won't type like const car2 is equal to another object with brand as Tesla and then price. Again, I have to type all these things. So it is not recommended. We coders are basically very lazy people. We don't want any repetition to do anything in repeated. So what we did here was here's a function called car maker. So yeah, this is a function called car maker. This will take in parameters as brand, price, and top speed, and this will make an object for us. Just like the same, it is static, but this will make an object and return it to us like this. In this dot is like the object, this dot brand means the brand of the object is equal to brand, which is the being passed as parameter. As you see, there's the same color, like price, the color is same. That is, don't get like there's no need like this should be same as brand of brand. We can just type here it's brand as given one, and here also it will be brand of given. It's not anything compulsory that like the name should match. We can have this also, and here you can use it to create new cars. Like I just created a Tesla, BMW without any much efforts of writing again and again. We pass in like two functions, Tesla, BMW as parameters, and also use new keyword for it. It will create a memory in the what do we say, the RAM, and it will assign it to the car one. So if I now try to console log the car one and car two, yeah, yeah. So here, like if I try to console log the car one and car two, it create an object of like, see the first one, car one was Tesla with brand Tesla, price 65,000 and top speed of this. And the car two was created as BMW 60,000 and top speed of this. And here is also a function. We also added an object in like a function. The object of has autopilot, which will just return true or false if the car has a autopilot function or not. So now I have just assumed that if it is a Tesla, it will have an autopilot, it will return true. And if it is not a Tesla, it will just return false. So like now the car one here is clear. So R1 is a Tesla, and if I'm console.logging that car1 has autopilot, whether Tesla has an autopilot. So it will give out true. If I change it to car2, now car2 is a BMW, and here it will check if the brand is BMW. It's not BMW, it will return false. So yeah, BMW won't have the autopilot feature. I mean, according to our assumption, so it will return out false in that case. So it's a question time. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is a dashed language. Yep, as most of you guys have guessed it correctly, yes, the correct answer is A. It is an object-oriented language. Just now, like I have shown it, how the objects have been used. And then let's move to the next slide. And loops in JavaScript, just like loops in any other programming language, JavaScript also has a loop: for loop, for in, while, for each. So I'll just quickly go through the loops part here. Now, like if I have, let's start with the first one. This for loop, it's basic for loop. If you are familiar with C++, this might be a piece of cake for you guys. So I just did a for loop, I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 5, and then I'll just do plus plus 5. So it printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was for loop. Now, like suppose there is a road, and the road has smooth, bump, smooth. And what we guys want is that we want this thing to be, it should be smooth. There should not be any bump. So what we will do here is that we will just use the splice function, which I demonstrated in the array part, that will splice road index of bump and 1. So what if we do this is that the thing is it will just remove one, because if we have passed one, it will only remove this one pump here. The rest of the pumps here, as you see, has not been removed. So we can't, just keep copy pasting it. Okay, remove again, remove again, remove again, remove again. We won't be doing like this. Instead, we will be running a while loop here. Example. Here we will run a while loop that, okay, we will first find the, index of bump. If index of bump is greater than -1, that means bump is there in the array. So if bump is there in the array, then we will perform this operation called row.splice, just remove bump, and that is one number of times. We can actually put here 2, 3, or there is another function called count of bump. But just for demonstration of while loop, I will be using it one at a time. So if we do this, and if we now print the array, we will see that almost the road is cleared of all the bumps, and it will contain only smooth here. Because while there was bump, the index was greater than -1, and it became true, and then it used the splice function, it removed from the array. So that was for the while part of it. And now let's move for each. Like if there is a constant numbers array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there's a property called for each. As the name suggests, for each will just go through every element in the array, and then we decide what we want to do with every element in that array. So here we have provided a function called func, which is here. Now the function will is, let's not keep index for this one. Yeah, it will receive a number. It is not a number actually, it is just an element here. We'll just receive an element here, the element which will be of this 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we try to print this, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, which is the elements of this array. So what this will do is just pass the elements into this function. Like here, the elements of this are the elements of this array. You can have any name, and like I changed from number to element. You can have anything. But if you pass in a second parameter, the JavaScript will understand that the second parameter is index, and it is conventional. So it like index. So we'll just type that this has an index of index, which was given from this parameter. Like we are not passing the parameter here, JavaScript automatically will pass the element and the index parameter to the function. Now if I try to print it, we have that 1 has an index of 0. Okay, I forgot to put the spaces here. It's not looking nice. Yeah, now it looks nice. So 1 has an index of 0, 2 has an index of 1. So that's how we create, like that's how there's a for each loop. It will just go through iterate through every element in the array. Not only that, what we can do is as a shortcut to reduce this number of lines of code, we can just directly create a function here only. Like this is an arrow function. Like if we just for each, we are creating a function here only. Like there's a thing called this. Now this is a function. Like what you did here is a function only. So we'll just type const func is equal to is a function. This is how you can also make a function in JavaScript, but this analogy is commonly used. This one, the const function is equal to this function. This is a syntax for the function, but this is also a syntax for the function, that it is equal to a function, and it will contain something operations to be done. So if we do the same thing for here, that console numbers for each number, it will receive a number as a parameter. This is a bracket here. That is a function parameter. And it will just console.log the, like if you want, I will put it in the parentheses. It will just console.log the number. If I print it, it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the same if I type given another parameter. And if I give the index, it will act as the same way. 1 has an index 0, 2 has an index 1. So yeah, that was the looping for each, and also a shortcut, like having a 3 lines, not 3, like 4 lines. I just reduced to 1 line by making a function in the passing only direct. That was the loop part. So functions, the like now only I like demonstrated functions in the C++. How you do it, functions will have parameters, then you will you can perform things on the parameters, you can do stuff with the parameters. Now this JavaScript classes are user defined data types that can act as a template for objects. JavaScript classes are should not be confused with objects. They're not objects, but they act as a template for the objects. They also contain various attributes and method and constructor. Like just like they're very like kind of similar to object, but they're not object. So I have an example here for a class here. So wait, it's very big, but don't be scared like oh god, it's so big. It's a very interesting example. So we have a class person here. If you play any video game, any person you see in the video game is an object. So what the constructor here will do is it will just create a class for it that this name is equal to name, the parameter, and as a default it will have a health of 100 and a money of 10,000, and it then has a function called take, like it has a take damage function. Like if you are going to hit a person on it, so what the game will do it that the game will initiate the take damage function. If you hit anyone in the game will initiate this function take damage, and then if it will check if the health is less than zero of the person, it will print that no, the person has zero HP, like it can't die further else, and it will then return. If that part is not executed, it will just reduce the health of the person by 20. And there's a like if you eat any snacks in the game, like if you're playing PUBG and you drink that can and you heal yourself in the in that way, the heal function will get executed, that heal. Okay, this dot health plus of equal to 20, then that means that 20 HP will be rewarded to you. And I did not add a like the if else condition that the health is greater than 100 and all that. Can add it later according to you guys. And then we have a spend here which will take an parameter amount, how much do you want to spend, like, and your money, it will first check if your money is less than the amount. Like here suppose here's a $10,000 and you want to spend $12,000. The game, you can't do that in game, that person has less money and you're spending more, then the game is broken. So you don't want game like that way. So yeah, it will first check if your money is less than the amount. It will just print that this dot name, like for any example, cannot spend that much, and then it will return. And if it is not the true, I mean, if it is the statement is not true, it has money. It will just reduce that much money from the person's money. And if it earns any money, then it will just add the money to it. It's a function. Now here I've like created from the Witcher 3 games that there's a new person called I've created a new class called which is a person name and called Geralt. What I'll do is that I'll first console.log the which. So here we have first the Geralt of if anyone have played the Witcher 3 game. It's person with name Geralt held 100 and money 100 $10,000. If I do a take damage on it, like if I do a take damage on it, then the health should reduce by 20. So okay, I will just do that take damage, and then I will console.which again. So first it was 100 and then it was 80 because the function take damage got executed. In that way, here also like if we do the heal, like if we okay, we will heal it and we will console.log the which again. Then it will go from 100 to 80 to 100 in that way. And then in the same way, you can make the game like this if you want. It's very interesting way to be more in creative and innovative. If you guys are interested in like game development aspect, like you should be more into the class and object. It's like a very awesome thing for game developers. So guys, have any doubt, anything, you can type in the chat box. Might take a 2 minutes break if you want. All right, guys. So that was the basics of the JavaScript. Now we will be watching JavaScript in actions. I have like prepared the HTML file over here. Before that, I want you to introduce like DOM, the document object model, where we'll be inserting our JavaScript code. So like what is DOM, if you might ask? DOM is just a representation of the HTML file. Like yesterday, you have created the headings, head, the body, and all that. So in this, if you can see, like there will be elements HTML. Inside the element, there will be head, there will be a body, and then it will have a title, and it will then element called a, then an attribute of link href, and then it will contain a text called my link. In that way, you might like now we will be using the JavaScript. With the help of JavaScript, we will manipulate the DOM. That is, we will play with the HTML elements. We'll change the content. We'll change the text. We'll change the styling and all that. So yeah, let's get started with the DOM. Okay, before that, I will start. This is like the first thing we'll get started. Okay, so how do we write the JavaScript code in a HTML file? So if you want to write a JavaScript code in an HTML file, we use the attribute of called script. Now the script will have a type called text JavaScript where it will have a document. What is document here? The document is the entire content of the web page. It will have the HTML tags and everything it will have. So we will use that to write hello world. We can also write the anything you want. And then if you want, not only that, you can use it in head, you can also use it in body, and you can import it from outside. Like here I have imported the script called one import javascript.js, the source by applying it to source, and this is here, which is yeah, this one, which will just write the CSEA web dev, and then it will just import it. Let's see it. Just start the server. Hi. So hey, here, yeah. So here, like we started with this, like there's a script. We used a hello there, and then we also used it called document.write welcome to CSEA Web Dev Bootcamp. And then we also imported a script of one import script.js, which has a type of text JavaScript. Hello there. And then if we can have hello everyone, use, and if we save this, the hello everyone will run. So that's how we import and write a JavaScript in the HTML page. So now let's explore how to JavaScript in HTML. So if I go live again, this. So yeah, so here we using the JavaScript in the HTML and have a head and tail here, which has an H1 style. If you like write document dot write type hello world, it will just type in hello world in like just the plain text. If I see here, it just like plain text hello world. Here like have imported the script here of the CSEA Web Dev Bootcamp, which I used in the earlier. But if I type H1 hello world and H1, so it will give me in a heading. Like in the earlier it was just a small text. Now it has a big text of hello world. Now you put any JavaScript in the script tag and it will run. Just like here's a for loop, like a simple for loop where I will be just iterating through first five elements and just I will print it, and then yeah, here we have 0 1 2 3 4, but it's very small here. So what I can do is I will just add a head and tail. What is head and tail here? The head and tail we have here defined here is h1 and h1, which is like I gave a styling to the I, which will have an string attribute h1 and a style. It will have a color, and tail has an h1 also a closing tag. And if I run this, I have a bigger numbers and like with a color black, which I've provided to them. If you have any guys, you can ping up in the chat box. Okay, so the question time, which I just like explained, inside which tag do we put our JavaScript code? Okay, as most of you guys have guessed it correctly, yes, we put our JavaScript code inside the script. So now we will be, finding HTML elements. We'll be manipulating the DOM elements. The real fun starts now. So we have a basic, let's do this. Just comment this out and we'll start this. And I'm using live server here for the, it will just show me the web thing. Yeah. So first question it asks here is, what is web dev? Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah. So the first thing it asks in a H2 tag is, what is web dev? And the second thing I will say you what it is for, and then we have a button called reveal. I've used the styling. It's just a bootstrap. I've copy pasted the CSS from the internet. Yeah. So what is web dev? I won't write anything in here. So it is this thing, and it has an attribute of called ID. So ID should be unique. The ID here should be unique because we'll be now accessing this H2 as a whole from with the help of JavaScript. So now we have a thing here called it's on click. Let's suppose what happens. We have an on click is equal to reveal the answer function here, but we don't have the function here. So we'll be making a function called reveal the answer. So what happens is that if I click on the button reveal, the I want this thing to change. I want this thing to have some content inside it instead of being just blank. So what I can do is I can access that the element with the help of the ID. So what I will type is document dot get element by ID. What it will do is get element by an ID. Now, as I said, the ID should be unique. So we will copy paste this ID here because we want this thing to be manipulated. So what we'll do is that okay dot inner text will be equal to that what is web dev we want to have that web dev is love. We want this thing to happen that the text inside this should be replaced by this. Okay, so now if we click this and run it, so what should happen is that this inner text should be replaced by this. Yeah, so see, I as I click reveal here, on click is a it will just say if it gets clicked, execute this function, and this function is written inside the script of the JavaScript, and it will just there's a function of reveal the answer. It will get executed, and it will get the element by ID, unique ID 2, and then the inner text that is here. The inner text here will get replaced by web dev is love. So if we click on reveal, then the web dev is love gets gets revealed. The inner text gets replaced by that. So that is how we are accessing the elements by ID. Now what we'll do is we will be accessing the elements by tag. Okay, so what I will do is stop the server here. Minimize the terminal. Okay, so yeah, what we have over here is we have 6 paragraphs over here. We have 6 paragraphs over here and a button which says that we want to apply magic to the paragraphs. So on applying a click to it, magic will get the function magic will get executed, and see the syntax of the magic. The function is equal to it's just a function. So what I did here was now I did document.get element by tag name. In the previous one, what I did was get element by ID, but I did by tag, which is P, and which is the tag which is being used here, the P. So what it will do is it will get from all the document, it will get any element which has a tag of P, which is a paragraph, and it will pass it into the para array because it will not it is not an object, it will be an array. So if I do a para array of 0 points, the 0 will be the first one because it is 0 based indexing, and if I click apply magic on it, it said that para array dot style, the style of this one, and that is the font size, the style and the font size should be equal to 30. So what it did was it changed the style of the 0th one. If I want to change the style of the first one as well, but in this time I want the color to become red, so I'll click apply magic, and then the first one got like it increased in the font size to 30, and the second one got the color as red. So now we have the para array. We can just have fun with the arrays. Like we can loop through it and all that. Like now I've created a looping function here, which will just loop through the array and just will increase every element inside it to a size of a 36. So if I click apply magic, here you see the every element, the style of every element got increased to font size of 36. And also you can perform any magic. Like I have an here of basic looping. If you like guys are very creative and like very logic oriented, what I did here was Usually the style will contain an RGB format, RGB. So RGB will have the red color like zero, will have zero, and then if you want a green, then blue, then you can have blue color. Like it's a color formatting which you can do, give to any document. Yeah. So what I did here was, okay, I used the this format which says that okay, the color should be RGB, and the first of like as I said, RGB will have three parameters, first for red, green, and blue. So what I did here was it's basic looping from I to the para length. If it is divisible by 3, if the modulus is 0, I want okay, make it 255, which is the maximum of any red. Or you can, if it is like the remainder gives 1, then give 255 to it, or 0 0. So if I do this, like it will have 255 0 0, or it will have 0 255 0, and then it will have 0 0 255. So like with this logic here, what I did here was based on the remainder, I am deciding the color of the paragraph. So you can be innovative in this. So if I apply magic to it, so yeah, that's how it became. If it has a remainder of 0 when divided by 3, so it got the red color, the first attribute, and the rest was 0 because it had a remainder 0, so it was 0 0. So it got red, then it got green, and then like that. In that way, if your logic is strong, you can make awesome things with the help of JavaScript. Now what we will do is we will be accessing the get elements by classes. So the same paragraph, what I did, I copy pasted here, but just because for my love for even numbers, I added a class name for only even numbers. The second one, fourth one, and the sixth one. I just added a class is equal to my love for even. So if I do the same thing here, what I did in the previous was by tag name, it will like tag everything of p. But this time it will just take the my love for even class name. So this one it will only take this, and this one. So if I open this web page and I click on Play Magic, this was the first array. The in array which has a class array, the first element of it was the second one, which I applied a font size of 30, and then to the second element, that is the fourth one, it got the font size of red. So yeah, that's how you access the elements by class name. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the doubt in chat box. Put I with h2 size and red color. Okay, if you want to output I in h2 size and red color, I think it was in this one. Yeah. So what you can do here is instead of typing an head and tail, okay, a minute, you can just have a h2, and you can have a style of color is equal to red. This, yeah, two, and then you can have a style equals to. I mean, okay, I'll just put it here as well. Instead of h1 over here, you can put h2. So I've created head and tail. You can just copy paste this here. And then you can print I, and then you can print the closing tag of the h2. This way you can print it in the h2 format, but just make sure that this color is red over here. It has a unique code. I don't know the code of the red color right now, but yeah, you can use Google for that and just get the color code for it and put the code here, and it will print in h2 style the I value. So now we will be going to the form inputs, and we will be learning how to take inputs from the code. So now I have created a page over here. So yeah, what this actually does is it has an input. This is an input form which will be different in your web page because I have applied styling to it, or else it looked just dull and very boring. I applied styling, just copy pasted the CSS from the bootstrap, like it was demonstrated in yesterday's event. So yeah, I just took an input here which has an ID n, a type will be text, so it will have a text type, and then the placeholder will be value of n, which is visible over here, and it has a button of which applies magic function when clicked. So here's the function magic, and what, just have this thing for later moment, and it has a will just alert the n value here. So what I did here was var n is equal to document.get element by id n. The n is over here and it will have the value for it. So if I click 5 and if I click on apply magic, it will alert me that okay, you have entered the value of 5 over here. So yes, that's how it was. Now what I did here was basic PSAP things. I wanted to create a pattern from the stars and all that. Like you guys used to do in C++, now I'll be doing the same thing in JavaScript and demonstrate you guys in the web page. It will be visible in the web thing. So what I did here was, okay, it will on click magic will get executed. First, it will take the value of n from the input. Just like it alerted now, it has a value of 5. It will have a value of 5. And now what I did here was, I created a div here, which has an ID of pattern here. The pattern will be made from this recursive function. Like I applied here pattern of recursive function called pattern to print, which is this. It will have an object pattern. Okay, I think this will very hard for you, but it's just the same thing that it will have a dot content plus head. Like okay, now there's a thing called 5. If it has a van and is equal to 5, so first this function will get executed here called 5, then this dot repeat, it will be repeated 5 times, then again it will go to pattern function. It is a recursive function just to print the patterns. Like okay, I think you might not be there in the PSAP that far yet, but yes, if I now click on 5 and if I click on apply magic, this pattern gets printed over here. Like it has a 5, then it will get 4 because I did -1 over here. Then again -1, 3, then 2, then 1. Then again this all the these things get executed from start because I'm using the recursion over here. So it again get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how you can print the patterns. And now in web page also, I now took the input from the form, and then I printed the pattern. If you guys have any doubt, you can ask me. Yes, I styled the button with Bootstrap. I'm not a CSS like a pro in CSS. I will just copy paste the CSS from the Google. So like if I now click 3, it will print the same pattern, but this time the n was is equal to 3. If I click 2, it will print the same thing with 2 as n value. Now we will be just quickly going through the form. Like okay, just okay, so now this is like a form which was demonstrated to you with the help of input and the radio. So just ask a question that are you happy, and it has two input call of with a value yes or no and yes yes, and it has a name of choice. So you can only choose a single in between those two and you can't choose both. And it is a type of radio with the label yes and no. So what happens now is if I click is equal to submit. The script is here, the function is here. If I click it, this function will get executed. So what it will do is I have created two variable here and it use document dot get element by id. So we are actually putting the get element by id into function into work here. It's not like why are we learning get element by id. Now we will be practical use of the get element by id. So before this, if I just console.log the value if of console, go to the console, and if I click happy, I mean if I click submit, it console log the is happy dot value and no, and the is not happy dot value, which is here. The is happy was get element by id yes, it has a id yes, and it has a value of yes. That's why it printed yes and no. So what I now want is to prompt the user on the basis of what they selected. So like if is happy is checked, so the thing is here is happy is this element. If this is checked, are you happy is checked. If I click submit, it will prompt alert the user that okay, you know what, good going, you should be happy in your life. And if it is not checked, if it is no, so this will get executed. That is if it is not happy or it's not checked, the no one was checked. So yeah, it alerts a message, okay, you must be an engineering student that you're not happy. So yeah, that's how the checks. It's not just two options over here. You can have multiple options, and then you can check if this one is checked or not, if that one is checked or not. On the basis of that, you can you know give message to the user. Okay, you have checked this and that. What's this? like now we went through the radio, and now we will be going through the options and like in drop down. So what we did here was I've made like just added options to it, like Europe or Gulf. Like where do you want to travel? If you want to go to Europe, you want to go to Gulf, you want to go to USA, and on the basis of that, like, it has a ID called traveling. So when I click submit, this function will get executed, and selected will have now array. What will selected will have is that it will have an array. Like now if I have to alert the user, selected dot options, selected dot options will have this all the three. It will have all the three. So if I just wait a minute, I have it here. So if I select the Europe and if I click on submit, the value is it actually we're printing the first value. That is the this one. This is the 0 1 and this is the first one. So if I click on submit here, it will still give me a message. Okay, welcome to Gulf. But we are not traveling to Gulf. We are traveling to Europe. And even if I select the USA, it will just give me welcome to Gulf again. But because we have hard coded it here to one value, so we do not want that. What we did was we will alert the user selected dot options. It is an array. Selected dot options will have an array, and then we will access it using the selected. This is selected, and then the selected index, which is the index which you have selected on the all the three. And the dot value will just give the value of all the three what you have selected. So if I save this and if I now run that, so if you're traveling to USA, I'll just prompt, okay, we'll just see you in Times Square. If you're traveling to Europe, we'll prompt the message bon voyage. If you're traveling to Gulf, we'll just prompt the message, okay, welcome to Gulf. Or if you don't want to just alert it, you can just have a document.element ID. You have a replace over here. And if you want to insert the text over here inside of this instead of alerting is not a good user response thing, as you must have seen it. Like, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like it. Yeah, so I will just replace the inner text of the replace is equal to the value of this. Instead of alerting, now I will just replace the inner text to that thing. So if I'm traveling to Gulf, it will message me, okay, Habibi, welcome to Gulf. Or if I'm traveling to Europe, it will replace the thing by bon voyage. Or if I'm traveling to USA, it will just type in the see you in Times Square. So this was the form options, and we can also like have an image hover. I mean, the magic of JavaScript is just endless over here. Just showing you the basics one. If I click. Okay, so it has an image of CSEA, which is okay by default. I've clicked the source is equal to images. Here's the images folder, and it has an image.1 JPG, sorry. And then what I did here was, if mouse over, then this function should get executed called on mouse over. What this will do is it will just get element by the ID, and it will replace the source by image 2 by second image. It is now first image, and then if I hover over it, it will just replace the source. So like if I hover over it, the source got replaced by CSC, another image. I have two image over there, so it got replaced by second image. So now we have a function here called on mouse out. So as the mouse goes out, the source again gets replaced by the first image. So yeah, that's how play with JavaScript over here. Okay, and the last and the final will be going through the form validator thing. Okay, let me run this. You guys have any doubt? Okay, so what I did here was I created a basic form, very simple form, which has an input of ID, username, type text, and a placeholder. And I have used a label here. Label, it's empty right now, but it will be used for prompting, it's empty right now, but it will be used for prompting the error messages. So let it be empty only. And I have break it, and then I have input for password, type password, then a placeholder called password. So now what it will do over here is, let's keep the action.html for data purpose. Yeah. So what happens here is there's also button here in the form only, which has a type of submit. Now this is a very unique button because the type is equal to submit will submit the form. Will it's not just anything. It's a unique button which has a type of submit which will just submit the form. So what I did here was type is equal to submit. Now this will prompt this one, that is on submit. What do you want to do? So what I did here was I made a function called form validator. Now let's go to the form validator. And it is a function which will just take the two input element, the value of two here, the password and the username. That is get element by add username. Okay, not this one. I'm sorry. Yeah, this one. It will take the username and the password value dot value, and it will store it in username and password. And then I will just console dot log it, and then it will just show me in the console that okay, yeah, you are heading in the correct direction. And if I want to check if it is valid or not, so I created two variables here called username is valid and password is valid. What it will do is it will take the length. I will demonstrate this you a little bit later. It will take the length and it will see if the length is greater than 2 of the username. Okay, then it is true. It will store true in this username is valid. And if the password length is greater than 4, it will store true in the password is valid. Now, what happens here is if neither of them is valid, that is, I mean, either of them is not valid, that is, if username is not valid, or here we have used or, like similar to C++, which you use there, or the password is not valid, what it will do is first it will check, okay, if the username is not valid, it will take here the label here, un underscore error, the inner text will get replaced by invalid username, and the element of this input it will give a solid background, I mean not solid border color of 3 pixel red. And if the password is not valid, it will do the same thing for password also, and then it will return false because something was wrong in either username or password, and we want to return false to it, that no, it is not valid. And if it is valid, and if this statement was not executed, that means both were valid, and true will be returned to it. So yeah, let's type something. We won't type anything, we'll just click submit. But what happens here is as I click on submit, it gets refreshed. Like you can see, here was invalid username. It was very fast, but it refreshes. So what we do here is we don't. What we want to prevent it to getting refreshed. So we'll do a return. So what happens is if it gets false here, it won't refresh. So if I click on submit, now we have an invalid username and an invalid password. So if I type, empty spaces over here, I said here like the length should be greater than 2 and the password length should be greater than 4. If I just go with empty spaces, it's just empty spaces. And if I click on submit, okay, that means it was executed correctly, it returned true, and as a result of that, it got refreshed. But that's not what we want because we can't just have an empty spaces. So that's why we use a function called trim. So what does this trim will do? The trim will just trim out the white spaces in that. So it will make sure that there is no white spaces. So if you try the doing that again, just spaces, and here also just spaces, it will give an invalid username. It will give an invalid username. And if I type the correct now, and if I don't type the password as well, and if I click submit, so what happened here is now, okay, username is correct, but because our logic lacked in somewhere, it is still showing invalid username. So what I should be doing here is that we labeled this thing as invalid username. But by default, let's have a thing as the function gets executed, we will just remove those errors, saying that okay, no, inner text is correct. Let's assume a hypothesis that the username and password is correct. So as I do that, I don't type any password. Let me don't click submit. Invalid username. And if I type Pratham and my name, the username will get removed from here because we set it to null and this was not executed. This if loop. So yeah, that's why we did not get a user, but we still have a border of red color, and it is not a good user experience. So what we will do is just like we did the null thing over here, we set it to empty. We'll just set it to blue as it was in default. So yeah, I will just type nothing in it, get an invalid. I will type person my name and won't type any password. So yeah, the thing red gets cleared over here. So and that's like okay, I will type password now, anything. And if that's correct, it returned true, and that's why it got refreshed. So that means, you know what, it's okay. We passed that thing. And what I did here was like, instead of refreshing, I can prompt it to a logged in.html. The action will perform it if it returns true instead of being refreshed. So I have a logged in.html over here, which if it is true, it will just return, it will just provide the action that it will prompt me to the logged in.html. So if I type anything and if I click submit, it prompted me to a logged in HTML. The logged in HTML is over here, which is the same thing as, it's very basic. It also has a form which says logout. What this logout will do is, on clicking, the action will be 10 form validator HTML, which is my previous one. So if I click on logout, it will prompt me to the username page again. So yeah, that was it, guys, from my side. Like how you can have lots of fun and be creative with JavaScript and HTML. If you have any doubt, you can type in the chat box. The recordings and the resources will be provided in the WhatsApp group, so don't like worry about that. Is there any site? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there is any site for that. Okay, before that, guys can answer which of the following method is used to access the HTML elements using JavaScript. Okay, so there's a doubt how to make that password dots visible as text if you want it. Acha, for that, just change the type. Like I have set the type here to password. Just change the type here to text. So the password will be visible. So if I my name and yeah, because of the type, but if I just change it to password, it will be dotted. If I change it to text, it will be clearly visible as text. For the website thing, which will be useful for web development, these are the websites which our seniors recommended to us, and I also recommended to you guys to follow. W3 schools, jquery.com, and then scrimba.com. Okay, guys, thank you so much for attending the session today. Hope you guys have lots of fun and guys got